Um, Control is a big issue for me. My own, feeling like someone else is trying to take control from me, and it's really frustrating. And I had a marriage counselor once who I wanted to kill this marriage counselor. I hated her so. I can't tell you how much I hated her, but she said one really smart thing. Um, she's like, "You're always complaining about Catherine's control. This is control, control, control." She goes, "You got one thing you can control, and that's yourself." And I was
Yeah.
like, "You right now," but it was like really good advice. That was like 15 years ago, and
Oh, wow.
it's yeah, that you can control yourself. You can't control Mike. I can't control Catherine, nor can I. They really can't control. I was sort of ceding letting myself be controlled, or just felt that way. And
Yeah. And then you get
you step back and take a look at what's really going on, and it's just probably just a bunch of, for me, it was a bunch of resentment and baggage, and I kind of let that go a long time ago. Life's a lot easier when you stop battling that.
yeah. So I'm going to take Lee's advice, and I guess I'm going to try the taster
Mm.
that's coming, and do the whole, do the whole 9 yards again. And I was kind of joking with Michael, and I was like, well, thanks a lot. Now I got to do all the classes again and everything. And he goes, well, you know what they say in AA, because he's a big AA guy, and he says repetition, repetition, repetition. And if you've ever been to any of those meetings, it's like a broken record. And so, he's right. If you have, if you have
He
this,
also he said he didn't want to get you in trouble with like Strive, and I said people don't get in trouble on Strive, she's not in trouble.
no,
It's okay.
I mean, just some feedback for you when you have a conversation with him. Obviously, he reached out to me to in his moment of need, and I didn't contact him. And there's a specific reason I didn't contact him. Is I met him when I was in Vegas, as you know, Holly, and I think he's a lovely guy, and I'd love to meet him more often and get to know him even more. But my first priority is you.
yeah,
So when he wanted me to contact him, I wanted to contact you. I didn't want to contact Mike. So it was that was what that was about. If you just let him know, it's I didn't buy. I didn't believe the story. I didn't put it this way. I didn't think he was chucking himself off a cliff with those albatross in the mouth of great white sharks. I went to bed thinking, all right, Ollie's really upset. She's had a few drinks, right? But I need to speak to Holly, not Mike. So if you could just convey that to him, that was.
oh yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if you can't join, then cancel. I mean, yeah, that's fine. We need him.
Go on.
But yeah, I appreciate Doug talking to him. My poor mom had to talk to him in the middle of the night for like 2 hours, and I called her the next day, and she said he's absolutely, she goes, I know he's manic depressive, and he's really going off on a tangent right now, and he believes that he had something really, really in his childhood. My mom believes maybe he was molested by an alcoholic, or something happened where anything dealing with alcohol makes you a monster. I mean, an absolute monster, and it scares him so much. And I'm like, how in the hell did I hook up with somebody that is that, but we were put together for a reason. But yeah, my mom believes that he had some kind of trauma surrounding it. I mean, he definitely has told me he has, but I think there's some unsaid things that we don't know about.
I mean, that might be true. I mean, something that come up for me. I've been listening to Brené Brown being interviewed by Russell Brand on Under the Skin, and I'm gonna write a post today about something that I listened to today, but it ties into this, Holly. Is Brené was talking about a time when she just stopped drinking. So she was a little bit wobbly. She was still getting triggered and feeling uncomfortable around people who drank. And she had a friend who every time they went to a party together with her family and stuff, that this woman would get off her tits, right? And we've all got friends like that. We've all go to parties like that. We used to. And then Brenny decided she was going to have her own house party, but she felt really uncomfortable around this woman drinking. She didn't want her kids around that. So she took the very brave step of calling her friend up, explaining to her friend that she really, 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 really wanted her to come to her party. She really wanted her there. But if she was to come, she wasn't to drink alcohol. And the woman turned around and said, I will never, ever, ever set foot in one of your fucking parties. And that ended the friendship. What she said afterwards to Russell Brand was, Russell said, fucking hell, that was really, you fucking hell, how did you get the confidence to do that? And Brenny said, I had to do it. I had to set up that boundary. It's not judgment. It's being an adult.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought about Liza's blessing way when she was pregnant, where my mum came round and my sister, and it was a very spiritual experience. Everybody sat around the ground and were sharing our stories of childhood and were dancing, and it was very spiritual. And there's my mum smoking and her and my sister drinking. And I wasn't an adult. I should have said, Ma'am, you can come to Blessing Way, but only if you don't smoke. Ma'am, you can come to my house and see your granddaughter, only if you don't smoke. If you want to smoke in your own time, you can, but here are the rules, right? And why I'm saying this is, like with Mike's gone through a lot of addiction issues, and he's created a boundary that says, I cannot have relationships with people who drink alcohol. And that's why he said to you, look, if you don't stop drinking, our marriage is over, right? It's because he needed to build that boundary. It's really important to him. Similarly here, like I would have a massive issue if Liza started drinking.
Yeah.
So that's the more immediate issue. Like we don't even have to think about like any trauma or anything. It's like we need to either A, respect his boundaries, or B, leave. Yeah. And this is why it's so important that your decision to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol or not is your decision based on what you want,
right?
Not what Michael wants. But obviously, you know, it comes into the thinking. But to stop drinking alcohol because your husband doesn't want you to drink alcohol and you want to drink alcohol, that's going to end in fucking tragedy. You know?
Yeah, well, what it ends up doing is it becomes the resistance tells you that he's a jerk, and so that's a big that's the resistance talking to me all the time. And through this whole thing, that's been, whenever I've wanted to, it's always been his fault, and that's the resistance saying he's just oversensitive and blah blah blah. So, you know, you hit it on the head. It has to be me. Everybody knows that. You can't do it for someone else, but I've been trying to, and it felt right, and then it felt wrong, and then it felt right, and then it felt, you know, and it's just this big tug of war that's got to stop. You know, I really have to stop being in denial about, I have to go way back and think, how many times has this ruined, before I knew Michael, how many times has this ruined situations in my life? You know?
I wonder, as I'm thinking about you saying that, Holly, how many times has something bad happened, you know, messed up a relationship? I mean, like there's so many negatives, you know. For me, right before I quit, it seemed like this might have been the final straw. Is I drove really drunk with my wife and 3 of my kids in the car. Like I'm really lucky that nothing terrible happened. And you know, so like bad things come of alcohol all the time, you know. And I don't know if that, for me, if that's enough to discourage me. Like it wasn't like it's not just. I'm looking the other direction. Like I'm not looking back. I don't want to forget that, you know. Like those are reasons why I knew that I was just going in a really shitty direction, and it was accelerating. It was getting worse. I was scaring myself, but like there's that other pull. The reason that people want to drink, right? And like so, I'm like, I don't want to look backwards really at all and just say, oh, I needed to quit drinking so that bad things. It's just sort of semantics, you know. I didn't quit. I don't stay alcohol free because I don't want bad things to happen. I stay alcohol free because like I'm looking at the direction, all the good things that I get from it, and there's not a tug of war. Maybe there was a little bit a long time. I don't think I really had much tug of war. I was so beat up, but I don't know if we learn those lessons. Like you said, oh, I heard, you know, how many times have I had a bad screwed up a relationship because of my drinking? Does that really? Do you think that's? I'm asking everyone. Does that like sink in after a while? Like I don't know if that.
I mean,
If that's enough is that enough motivation? Like, oh, I don't want to fuck up another relationship.
no. I personally,
I don't know.
for me personally, no.
Yeah, I'm saying me personally. That's
Yeah, my experience, Doug, is I gave up drinking because I was continually arguing with my ex-wife. Like it was getting to the point where we were physically fighting. Like I don't mean like I was punching her. I mean I remember one night where she was going fucking mental on me. I literally had to wrestle her to throw her out of the house because I couldn't have her in the house with me. Because I would say to her, and I'm sober, I would say to her, leave me alone. Just leave me alone, please. I'm on my computer, I'm minding my own business, just leave me alone. And she would come and sit on the end of my bed and she'd look at me and say, I'll go wherever I fucking want. And she'd just look at me and laugh. And then it was getting that bad. But then when I stopped, my arguing continued and increased, right? My relationship with Liza, I don't drink, but boy, can I argue. Boy, can we fall out. Boy, have we been on the verge of divorce several times, right? So I don't think giving up drinking alcohol is the be all and end all. We're still going to have problems in our relationships and all that kind of stuff. But hey, you'll be a hell of a lot more better equipped if you're on Strive and you're learning as a group and having these conversations to deal with relationships than if you're not, first and foremost. I think the other thing is, Doug, you have stopped drinking alcohol a very, very long time ago. And I don't know your entire history from there to now. But when I see you on Strive, you've got the bit between your teeth. This isn't a fucking joke to you. It's fucking serious. Your need and desire to help other people is a fundamental principle of your life.
Yep.
I created a podcast and a movement of people, right? When you do those things, you're very unlikely to drink again because you're just creating such a Grand Canyon of a divide between where you
completely.
This is why when Phil turns around and says, I want to be an ambassador, I get it. He wants to be an ambassador because this gap between stimulus and response is like that for Phil right now. He wants it to be like this. He wants it to be so he never ever thinks about alcohol again. And he knows that the best way to do that is to immerse yourself into it, is to really kind of say, how can I learn more? How can I help other people?
Lee, I'm gonna make a point about immersing yourself. It's fun. It's I had an immediate sort of visual when you said that, because that can sound, and I'm thinking of you, Holly, like I gotta like immersion sounds like a lot of work, almost like you could be drowning under it, and that might be true. But my visually is like I'm doing the backstroke now on top of it. Like when I took this call, when I got on this call, I had an email from Bella. I listened to Annie Grace this morning. I read Laura McCall. Like there's a couple things. I'm not immersed in it. It doesn't take up an hour a day of my time the reply I was trying, I spent a good hour trying to reply to Sarah on her hello strivers one. Like I feel like a need to say something to her there, but generally, like I'm just doing the backstroke, and it's like maintenance. I can say I don't need this. Like I don't need to be listening to Annie Grace is a podcast answering, how do I go to a wedding and not drink? Like, do I need to listen? Do you think I need to listen to that? I
Yeah.
don't, right? But I do, because like there's gonna be something that Annie Grace says that I'm like, I know exactly what she's talking about, and it's just sort of like this reinforcement thing. And
Yeah.
so like
Petition.
you don't have to be immersed forever. It's not
But
like
it's not. I mean, there are two things going on there, though, isn't there? There's repetition in order to continue the maintenance and
Mhm.
to ensure that you keep refining these neurological connections of your new belief systems and stuff. There's that,
Yeah.
but there's also, I listen to Annie Grace every day because I pick up little gems from her that I can now use when I reply to strivers or thrivers
Yeah.
or whatever you want to
Oh,
right? So
everything I say was said by Belle, Laura McCowan, or Annie Grace, or you.
yeah.
It's all,
It,
it's just, and,
so
it's just like it's just part of my DNA now. These ideas.
and then you will slowly then Doug will become Doug. Look, someone wrote me an email this week, Doug, and they said, I hear Doug's leaving Strive, but I know he's interested and wants to be an ambassador as well. I want you to know that I don't think I would be where I was without Doug. And I'm not saying that I'm going to fall apart if he leaves, but I'm not sure if you know how much influence he had over me, because sometimes he can come across like a fucking bull in a china shop, but I want you to know that he fucking sorted me out, and without him I don't know where I'd be, and that was something that I wanted to pass on to you. That's what it's about.
That really just takes my breath away, seriously, because this takes my breath away.
That's what it's about. When we're talking about meaning and purpose and we're talking about filling the white space, that's what we're talking about. Not walking the dog or going fucking swimming, doing backstroke, or whatever it is. That unless doing the backstroke is like, if you want to be an Olympic swimmer, like if surfing is your thing, if getting in the ocean is your thing, if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you know it in your bones, so that's what you want to do, that's it. That's great. That's it. But for me, I have to help people. I have to help people, and by helping people, I'm helping myself, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, like Stella said, Doug said, it's in your bones.
Bones.
And there's nothing like when people come to me and say, fucking hell, it's a chore getting through this intensive. I'm like, oh, like it shouldn't be a chore. It should be fun.
No, it's mind-opening. I mean, I'm glad I have that whole foundation. I mean, this time around, I don't feel so helpless. I'm just like, this is going to be easy. I know all this stuff already, It's just a little switch in my brain that just kind of got switched on that needs to get switched off again or whatever. But you always learn from these things. And I've been learning that I had some big epiphany yesterday, and I don't remember what it is right now, but you have these moments where you're of clarity that you need whenever you think about.
We're on.
Whenever you think about expanding your mind and your life, that's the only time you're going to get some growth. We're all just growing.
Well, we are on Strive.
Jump. I have a meeting at 4 o'clock. I just wanted to follow up on these couple of things here. And in my head, what I'm about to say links it together. A few days ago, last week sometime, I went back and I read my introduction. I had not, I downloaded all my posts. I wanted to see them, right? So I went back to my first post. Not my first post. I did my introduction after a few posts, and I was almost exactly saying the exact same things I'm saying, a year and a half later. And so I thought, like, what did I get? I knew I got value. I'm trying to say, how do I quantify what I've gotten out of this last year? And it's kind of like the repetition, the rewiring that we are just talking about. Like I'm the same person I was a year and a half ago, but like I just have such a confidence and comfort level in my beliefs. Oh, I know where I was going. Is the values module still part of the taster intensive
Yeah.
program where you get this list of like 50 values um, and I think like that sort of summarize that sort of is a real clear example of what like being there has done. Like I'm not a different person. I don't have. I came there for a year and I hadn't drank in a year and a half, right? So I was already someone who didn't drink alcohol, but like just like cementing that foundation through helping other people, getting the feedback from other people, taking the class, just rewiring that thinking, aligning with your values. To me, is like taking a Rubik's cube and like just snapping it all into place till you feel whole again. I was so out of line years ago, behavior versus values, and I don't even know what they values were. I saved that list of values. I should go back and be a good exercise to go back revisit that on occasion. But like my life feels so good because there's no dissonance.
Cognitive.
I'm not doing the wrong thing, and wrong being wrong according to me. What I want, and so by being there, you just maybe Holly, you just said you kind of know this stuff that you learn. You make a mistake, you learn from it. You're gonna go back and revisit the material. Yeah, just keep doing it until it's just in the bones. And
I don't want to have any cognitive dissonance. That
I was cognitive dissonance. That's all I was, and I'm a mess. So, hey guys, I love chatting, but I got a 4:00 that I thought was going to be canceled. 4:00 meeting, and so love to you all, and see you around.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
How are you, Stella? What's going on in your life?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm just trying to I think with me, like with Holly, I didn't go to drink, but it's so easy to let someone else's external stuff take over what you're feeling at that moment in time. I didn't do that, but what I'm trying to do is not be taken back to the past, because I'm not the person I was 2 years ago. I'm completely different. So I think sometimes you've got to look at that one and stay in the moment in time instead of dropping back. What's the point in going over all that shite? It's been and done, and it's supposed to have been at the time rectified with that drunken shit ass that you probably were at the time, with everybody else at the same time, if that makes sense. And this is a different ball game altogether. Do you know what I mean? This is like this isn't walking through fog or having a veil on. This is real, in a way. So I'm just thinking, well, it's whether I accept it or not, isn't it? And you just don't. I'm just not. I'm just going to ride it out, I think.
What are you talking about there? You're talking about other people trying to drag you back into the past?
Yeah, like there is stuff that's probably been unsaid that should have been said at the time. Maybe you don't think about it at the time because you think it's done with and finished, and then it's not. A bit like when Holly said, I'm going to kick the dog. You mean, yeah, all right, but there'll be a trauma there, yes, for sure. But when you've done all the work, like what Holly's saying, what we're doing, and if someone hasn't needed to do that work, there comes a point where you think, well, did I own that? Do you know what I mean? You don't own that. It's not yours to own that. If I've moved on, then you can't keep going back into someone else's in someone else's world. Do you know what I mean? They're in a different dimension to you then, aren't they? Does that make sense? You're not on the same, you're not on the same page then. You're in a different dimension completely. There'd be no way, Lee, that I would say some of the stuff that for instance, I tried to be really careful in how I worded it and took a deep breath and stuff. But in the end, I just turned around and said, well, okay, if this is how you feel, then don't touch me. And secondly, I never hurt you at all throughout our marriage. I have not been the one who's ever raised my hand to you. You quite nicely fall over by yourself. And that's been left like that now for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So like you said about Anna leaving a job, you leaving your job, you having to, you know, I thought to myself, through keeping myself to myself and like you're saying, just immersed myself in me, and I haven't rectified it. I haven't spoken to Alan about it because, Janoli, I thought, it's not mine. How do I own someone else's past? What they think has happened? How can I make what he said right to him? I can only make it right for what I heard him say to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're trying to fix their memory.
Yeah.
Their memory happened and it's impossible, but they just keep having it going around and around like a movie. And you're like, your movie's completely wrong.
Your movie, yeah, the movie's not how it was. And at the time, that movie, you're right, Holly, at the time, I found myself jumping hoops to prove myself that I hadn't done these awful, disastrous things that this small town have said about me. I mean, there was one rumour going around one time 10 years ago that I actually took a knife to Alan's throat. Well,
Oh my.
honestly, Lee, I just thought, fucking dicks, you know. I mean, okay. I just thought, well, while I was at it, I took his gland out while I was there. You know, if anyone wants the glands taken out, just nip round my house, you know, 6 Station Road. You know what small towns are like. And I'm not an insider. I'm not born and bred here. So, you know, it's easy just to attack somebody that they don't really know. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
This is 23 years. And the reason why I stopped drinking was I was sick of pissing myself off. I was sick and tired of having to pick myself up and having to make myself look like I was this. Anyway, I just had enough. And I thought, right, I'm stopping. Now, you talk about the past. What made someone else do it? Yes. Well, the thing is, I stopped for myself. Did Alan stop for himself? No, he told Georgie he was stopping because he said to Georgie, I don't like drinking on my own. So like Holly just mentioned there, I'm not in Alan's movie. That movie belongs to him and I'm in my own movie. So in a way, for me to sit down and talk to him about it, I just feel like, my God, for the last 17 years, you actually said to me, I still can't skip over why someone would want to hurt you so much by taking you back into a past that was just horrific. That past, Lee, that you were saying about screaming at your wife, that's like you two still being married 29 years later, and she brings that up. And it's like, what the fuck is that all about, you dope?
It's the pain
do
body.
that?
You know, have you heard of that? The pain body?
No.
Yeah.
I think Eckhart Tolle talks about how people want to live in the pain body and they want to be, it won't let them go. And they just keep revisiting it and going around and around and around in it. It's like when the people, like a cow chewing its cud, you know, just around and around. And for that human beings want to be, they somehow gravitate to be in this pain body. And it keeps them from being happy. But for some reason, human beings do that.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's go somewhere where let's go boldly. Let's go boldly where people in this world rarely go. All right. So Alan takes you back into a place where you don't want to go anymore because you're a different person. Michael probably does the same to you. I know that I had a discussion with Liza about this the other day as well. The problem is, as much as we are evolving and growing, and I'm very fortunate that Liza is an evolutionary conscious person. She's growing alongside me. Even if we decide to just look after ourselves, build strong boundaries, really take care of ourselves. Like, for example, Stella, I think you're an absolute inspiration to just go around the world and do your thing and not be tied to Alan's immobility. You know, like my mother would never do that. She would see herself as a victim. Oh, my husband never takes me anywhere, blah, 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 blah. You're not like that, right? However, these people are still in our orbit. They're still in our orbit, and we keep banging into them every now and then. So let's have a conversation that is really uncomfortable. At what point do we call it a day and leave?
Wow, don't even go there. I thought in 15 years I'm 70. Fucking
You
hell,
might,
man.
but you
When
must
am
be
I going to
thinking.
open my eyes? Yeah.
You must be thinking about it. What are the things that are coming up for you? And if anyone's uncomfortable with this, I'll start if you want.
Well, for Holly, I suppose she's new. Holly's not been married long, but
No.
so I suppose I can use the same excuse. Oh, I've been 29 years, so it's a long time. Why would I want to give it up? And Holly's could be, oh, we're only married 2 years. It's not long enough. Da da da. So, do you know what I mean? So again, yeah, that's you're just going round. Oh, I'm just going round and round. Only this time, I said, right, I'm going to stop drinking for now. And let's see what happens. Let's say 2 years. And I don't know why I did it, but I plucked this 2 years from out of the sky. It just fell in on my lap.
Oh.
And the 2 years is it's in October. And I'm thinking, what has evolved in those 2 years? One, I don't know about the relationship with Alan drinking. Didn't really help me, him stopping drinking so quickly, because I was trying to find out what had made me all these things that everyone was saying I was when I drank. Of course, when he stopped, I couldn't see that, because then Alan became somebody completely different. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I left him to do his thing, went off to New Zealand, come back and thought, right, great, let's move forward from here. Let's try doing this, and this. And then this one little hiccup happens in the universe. And I ask nicely, would you please not wave to this guy while I'm sat in the cab? Wave to him all day long, but just not when I'm sat there. To which then replied was, this is my family, you're trying to stop me waving at my family and blah, blah. So I said, no, I'm not trying to stop you waving at your family. And then this is when this came up. Alan's little movie says that I kicked him in his head, and he's been making love to me for the last, I don't know how many years. And I kicked him in his head, and I said, I did I? No, you didn't. Actually, no, you didn't. I said that all wrong. I mean, and I said, no, no, you didn't know what you meant there, did you, Alan? But it's been said now. And that's how that came out. And then I said, well, listen, if it makes you feel better, then don't touch me. And also, I'm going to just share one thing with you. You fall over quite nicely when you're drunk by yourself. I don't even have to touch you. I have never raised my hand to him, Lee. I swear on my children's lives, never, ever, ever. So I don't know where he gets this movie. But if this is going to be a continual thing now that I don't drink, and I gave it 2 years, maybe in October, when, you should see, it's like trying to get a 2-year-old to walk across a road holding your hand when I said about going to America. And I was like, fuck. So I just said to my sister, look, please, I can't, I've asked. He said, no, leave it. And so she asked, and he said, yes. And so now Alan is going to come to America. And then he says, oh, I think I'd better not go, because it might be best you go on your own. And then I hit the roof, and it's like that constantly. So I love what Holly said. It is like living in a negative like time zone, and I don't like going in the time zone anymore. I don't like going in there. I like staying where I'm at, even if I'm by myself. I haven't by myself now. I've got Strive, and I've got the communities, haven't I? And yeah, the girls, of course, they're not inviting me, you see, and I found this out only 2 days ago, Tuesday. They're all drinking, Lee. Of course, right. That's why I won't be going, because they don't want me there, because I honestly don't drink. That is just who I am now. So, and I won't be, just so that I can get sympathy from them. And like Holly was saying about Michael having issues. Well, Alan lost his parents really young. His dad at 18 months, his mum when he was 8. And then his mum just disappears off the face of the earth like she's some sort of Mara Hindley. No one talks about her. And here's me, an outsider, loudmouth. Well, freaking hell, she only just died. That's all she did was die. can't you know, why don't people talk about her? And Alan's got a lot of a mixture stuff, and he's got loads of stuff to work on. So when those things were said to me in the kitchen, I was like this, Lee, fuck you, Alan. I don't need to take this shit from you now. I don't drink. I can do this. I can be, you know, why are we here? Why are you with me? Physically, why are you with me? You mean to tell me you've just said to me you've been making love to someone for the last fucking 19 years ago? 19 fucking years that happened ago. This is what's going round in my head. I never said anything. I just kept it to myself, wound it all out, replayed it all. And I just had to do my own work and my own trauma stuff. How could I stay living like a young child in Belfast? How could I physically move forward in my life if I'd have stayed like that, stagnating? Because I was born in Ireland, and I had to watch people get shot, and I had to watch people get peeled off the floor. I mean, how many, you know what I mean, Lee? You've got to let things go. Let it go. I am someone completely different. Embrace it or fuck off. That's how I feel right now, if I'm totally honest. And that's why I can't have the conversation with Alan, because I still feel angry at him. Yeah. And I want to not be angry, because that's not who I am.
But you said embrace it or fuck off.
Yeah.
But it could be embrace it or I'm fucking off.
Yes.
I think I remember, like, I called myself a coward because I wouldn't leave Debbie. I wouldn't leave her because I didn't want, I'll just be honest, right? I didn't want the thought of somebody else touching her bothered me. The thought of somebody telling my son what to do, like another father role, bothered me. I didn't know what would happen to all that stuff. Like, that bothered me. Like,
Sorry.
What are we going to do with the car? That bothered me. Like, what's going to happen to the house? Where am I going to live? Am I going to see my son? Am I going to find anybody else? Like, is anybody going to find me attractive? And then I think there was some subconscious things, like I don't want people to see me as a failure, like I failed because I'm getting divorced, particularly because I was very vocal in my small community about divorce rates. So I would say, fuck it, now look at these people. What the fuck's the matter with them? They're getting married, they're getting divorced left, right and centre. Aren't they willing to work on their relationship? And so that came through my head as well. And now with Liza, you know, when we get into trouble, it's very much Zia. Like, do I want to have 2 kids on 2 different continents? And how willing am I to go to the ends of the earth to make sure that doesn't happen? And then when I start doing that work, so that doesn't happen, then I start falling more in love with Liza. And the fact that me and Liza talk all the time, very openly, and are both in therapy trying to heal ourselves, not just to talk, but to heal ourselves from past traumas, whatever, and really kind of get on the same page as parents, as like, here you are, like yesterday, I'm learning the difference between being Lee Davey, being and not doing stuff. So what I mean by that is, like, I don't want to ring Liza up and tell her I love her because it's on my list to remind me to do that. Right? I don't want Liza to feel like she's an item on my to-do list, that she's really low down the pecking order. And I'm learning, like, so quickly. Like, I was in London, like, as you know, the other week, and I was getting up at 8:30 in the morning, and I was sneaking out before anyone woke up, and I was getting back at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'll be honest with you, you know, I would be happy if Zia was asleep when I come back. I wasn't in the mood to be a dad, right? But there were times when the 2 of them would sleep in, so they would miss breakfast. So I would leave the little cafe that I was in, and then I would go into the breakfast area of the hotel. I would get all this breakfast food with all these plates, and then I would take them upstairs, and I would leave them for them. And then when they woke up, they didn't miss breakfast, it was there. And then the next day, I said to Liza, I was a little bit stressed, and I said, I'm not going to be able to get you breakfast this morning. So make sure that you get up on time to get your breakfast. And she said to me, you nearly had it then. I said, what do you mean? She said, when you brought me breakfast, I felt more connected to you than I'd been in a long time. Like if you want to like make love with me, that is a moment I want to make love with you, right? And then you fucking spoiled it. Then I realized that once again, it's a tick list exercise. I must get breakfast for my wife and my daughter, because if I don't, they're going to miss breakfast. It's very different to I need and I want to get breakfast for my wife and daughter. Yesterday we put Erasure on Spotify, blasted it up, and the three of us just spun around, singing in hairbrushes, dancing and singing and holding and hugging. I haven't done that in so long. To just joy, and it's little things like that, like Liza's, I get up in the morning at 8 o'clock now. For the first 2 hours, I spend that time with Zia, so Liza can do her own thing till 11. And then the other day, Liza still wasn't up at 11. I didn't wake her up moaning and groaning that I had to work like I used to in the past. I got Zia, we went down the park, and we played in the park for hours. Liza woke up straight away on the phone. I'm so sorry that I've woken up late, and I know you've got to work, right? I'm like, don't worry, the work will get done. We're down the park, come and join us. She come down, we went to have dinner. I never once talked about work. I never once did anything. We had dinner together, and then I said, look, I'm going to go and work now. I'll catch you later. That is what she wants.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that because there needs to be dialogue, there needs to be communication, there needs to be a willingness for us we need to understand what it is that our partner wants from us, and whether or not we're willing to go there and be that person or not. Like how far are they asking us to go out of our comfort zone? So people are always saying to me all the time, oh, you're so hard on yourself, and it takes two to tango in a relationship. But I do keep saying to myself, no, this person that Liza wants me to be, I want to be that guy. This father that she wants me to be, I want to be that guy. It's not like I'm being someone that I don't want to be, just so I can remain in a relationship. So I think I'm going to really try and get someone on the podcast who can talk about when do you leave a relationship, because this is something that me and Liza have both spoken to our therapist. No, I haven't actually, but I know Liza spoke to her therapist about it. So it's really important. Like, at what point do you call it quits? And I think listening to your constant kind of like irritations with Alan, and similarly with Holly and Michael and Doug and Catherine, and there'll be more people on Strive. Like, it's the relationships that are so difficult still, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you said it before, and it's great because it's the communication afterwards. But at least this time I don't go in there like a stick of dynamite. I'm going in, I said two little things and I come away, and I've been sitting with it myself. And I played the movie in my mind and thought, okay, well, I've played it. I rectified it at the time. I did what I could at the time. There's nothing more I can do now. It's 2019. This was back in 2000, 19 years ago. It's something that I just feel I don't need to touch on. It's like, like little fleeting moments that come into my mind. It took a long time for me to get Alan out of my mind when I very first stopped drinking, because it was always about me taking the blame all the time, taking the blame, da 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 da. It was like a broken record. And in the end, I just threw the broken record smashed it into pieces and put it in the bin. I thought, that's it now. I'm not doing it no more. I've got to stop this. And every time it popped into my head, I would start singing, or I'd start shouting out loud so it would stop. Because constantly it was always, you should try harder, you should say more things, you should do this, you should do that. And whereas now I'm on the other side of the coin now, Lee, and like I found myself the other day saying, oh, like he brings me a cup of tea in the morning and he cooks tea. Well, hang on a minute. you put your hand down the toilet, Stella. You scrub the toilet. You clean the house. You do the washing. You get the car. You clean the shit up after the dog. I mean, come on. I do all the blue jobs. Alan never hardly puts a screw in. I decorate the whole house and blah, blah, blah. So then I thought, well, you need to write a little list then, or you need to write him a letter. And I think I've gone therapeutically. I have done so much for our relationship, because when I met Alan, he was depressed. He lived in a caravan with a black bin liner. He was 35 grand in debt. The guy was on his fucking knees, you know, and I said to him, oh, I can't come and live in Suffolk. You know, this place is like, it doesn't let you grow. It actually suppresses you. You're not really depressed. You're just suppressed. If you can try and get yourself to come and live with me in my house, try and come away from it if you can. And he got a job and he came and we lived there 6 years. But then my dad died all of a suddenly, and then I'm making decisions like, oh, it'd be better if I brought my kids up there. I saw this place through rose-tinted specs, and really, Jesus, I don't even know how I've survived 23 years. If I hadn't been the type of person that can move on from things quickly, I think I'd have bloody hung myself. It's that nasty here. And when I came and I was mentioning it to my friends back in Yorkshire, they were like, shit, Stella, are you sure you're paranoid? But no, Lee, I am not paranoid. These people are one bunch of nasty people. And it's just because they don't go nowhere. And Alan said all this to me, and now he's become one of them. It's like...
It's like the... Liza's getting me to see that it's really important that I see her, that I see her, I hear her, I'm present for her, that, you know, our joy is important, that we sit down and talk and make decisions together about really important things in our life, particularly around Zia at the moment, you know. And it doesn't come naturally to me, and I don't know if this is a bloke thing, but it doesn't come naturally to me. But with all the good work you're doing in terms of saying to yourself, right, I want to go to New Zealand, so I'm going to go to New Zealand. I'm going to go to America, so I'm going to go to America, and all the traveling and your business and all that kind of stuff. There's still those questions around, forget Alan a minute, you know, just forget that. Let's imagine we're Rhonda, right? Or Serena, who are like single. Yeah. What would the ideal guy look like for me? How do I want to be treated? How would I want them to behave? What values would be important for them, you know, to, you know, how, like, you know, and then we can take a look at that, and then we could say, well, is Alan fit that mold? And then if he doesn't, which he likely wouldn't, how far out of that mold is he? And is there hope that it can change, or is he never gonna fit that mold? And then I guess the $1 million question is, you know, is if they're never gonna fit that mold. So I think of my dad, for example, and my mum. My dad will never, ever, ever change anything for my mum or anyone else. Nothing. If my mum told my dad that if he didn't do X, Y, and Z, she would leave him, he would not do X, Y, and Z. He's a guy who never apologizes to her. He doesn't understand her. Like all these things. He's just a typical northern bloke in his 60s, right? So in that respect, you'd have to say to yourself, well, either I'm going to live with this guy and have problems all my life and live a kind of like a life that's stunted because of this really important part of my life is kind of like, it's like an appendage that kind of like is dragging me down. It's really heavy. Or I make a really tough decision and I just say, okay, I'm going to call this quits. Or what I learned from my Debbie experiences, what I didn't do is I'm going to have a break. I'm going to suggest that we part ways for 6 months. and we live separate lives, and then we see how it goes. And if I'm missing the hell out of you and you're missing the hell out of me, you know, that gives you the opportunity to start dating again. So, you know, you're missing each other, that suddenly he would be like, do you know when you first start out dating and they really, really look out for you and they really care for
Yeah.
you?
Mm.
That
When
might
you,
happen, yeah. And then sometimes I've read about in relationships, when that happens, you can rekindle your relationship, you know. It's like, but if it's not, if it's just like, I'm not missing this guy at all, or she's like, or he's like, I'm not missing this woman at all, or even worse, life is actually better, you know. Like Liza says this to me a lot when I go away. Life is better when you go away. You know, we've had these discussions, and that's not right. That's the death knell to a relationship. So it needs to be where I'm happy that my husband's going away working, but I really miss him. Not I'm glad he's going away because life is more complicated when he's here. So yeah, I think it's important to talk about these things because they're rarely talked about. We in the UK we're supposed to stay with our partner forever, because if we don't, we're bad people. But nah, I think you deserve someone who really makes you feel special, you know. And I'm hoping that you're having that internal dialogue and questioning whether or not Alan's that guy, and
mm.
you know, or whether he can come, you know, step up. Because I did ask you, I remember asking you, I said, when you said, oh, Alan's coming to America, and I said, how does that make you feel? You did originally say, well, I'm glad he's coming, you know? Whereas I think Liza would have said, you know, when we were at our low point, I don't fucking want you to come because I know I'll have a better time if you're not there, you know? So, and
The question,
why does he not want to go? Like, you know, it's like, it's a lot of questions and it's very complicated, and I know. And
yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because actually, I don't even know if he's kind of being bullied into it by my sister, really, in a way. I don't know how he feels about going. And the thing is, it's actually a client who told me, oh, Alan really missed you in New Zealand. Do you know what I said to her? Oh, did he? God, really, Anna? And then I lost myself for a moment in transit there, because I thought, shit, I'm doing her hair, and I've just kind of, I let my guard down for a minute and said, really, Anna, did he? You know, like some little girl that's getting a pat on the head for behaving and being really. I went and stood in the staff room and I thought, why couldn't you say that to me?
so it made you feel nice that he'd said that.
To someone else, though.
Yeah, but it made you feel nice to know that he'd missed you.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
just before.
yeah. So you care. You want him to. Well, so I mean, following that logic through, wanting him to miss you means you really care about him. There's some, you want this guy in that moment to really care about you, which is very different to, I don't want this fucking guy touching me. I don't want this guy anywhere near me. You know, it's I've had that same thing with Liza. Like, if we're not connected, I don't want you fucking anywhere near me. The last thing I want is you touching me. I'm not, like, connection is really super important for Liza, and I've always got to kind of keep that on the forefront of my mind. But anyway,
No, it's good. It's good how it's all going. And all them things you brought up tonight about, I like the guy. I mean, I wouldn't mind even doing some work with that Vinnie Grant. He sounds really good. When you had him on your podcast, he's really got it. Do you remember when he said
yeah,
about his mate checking him for every penny he had, and inside he didn't really want to forgive him, but he had to shake his hand because he was in a circumstance with him. He wouldn't go out of his way to be a friend and actually invite him to anything, but he would be civil to him. Well, that's the point where I've had to get with my dad bringing us up as warriors. Don't look for a warrior. You are the warrior, because I'm a girl. Yeah. So of course, when I get, like, I didn't do anything to this guy, Alan's cousin, when he decided to grab me by my hair and kick me in my head when we were having that, you know, that row with his girlfriend. It was kind of like that, and that's what I need to get my head around, seeing him as a human being instead of I see him as invisible, but Alan makes him visible when he's waving to him when I'm next to him.
Yeah.
So that guy, Vinny, yeah, he said something really poignant there, and I've got to get past that. And the thing is, it's really hard to get past it when you've been brought up and like, you get a wall built so you don't have to associate, because this side of the fence who are Catholics say you don't have to go near those Protestants. So the wall's there now, so it's easier. So you just don't see them, so that's fine. And then you come to London and it says no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. So that's easy because you've got a sign. But this time, when you're here and someone's done that, and I'm with someone who's supposed to be loyal to me and be my friend, trust me, he's my lover, he's my husband, blah, 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 when he can't physically support me in that one massive value. So I think Vinny would be really good for me on that side of, if I can let all them other traumas go because I've worked them out and I've moved forward, why can't I let that go? I made such a big deal about please don't wave to him while I'm sat in the cab, like, oh, you know, hiya mate, you know, all this really nice man gyrating stuff. When I'm sitting there thinking and feeling my face bust open by that man.
Mm.
And in that moment, it's like, oh, it's okay. You can do what you want to her. It's just her.
It's almost like a woman needs a man, not a boy, a man, and women's definition of what a man is very different. But like when I lose my shit and take Liza into the past and defend myself, and I'm being a boy, which is like super unattractive, right? And you don't want a relationship with a boy. You need a relationship with a man. And similarly, when someone's hurt you like that, you need your man to step up. You know, all right, there's a part of the old Valiant, okay, he does that to you and then your man goes around and knocks him out or beats him up or whatever. We don't need to go into violence, but
I don't need, yeah.
The ally side of it that Melanie Joy talks about in Beyond Beliefs a lot. You need him to be an ally in that moment. And if he chooses to talk to him, whatever he does in his own time, great. But when you're there, they need to be your ally. Like, I mean, but again, we're just surmising here, right?
It's just my need.
There really needs to be an open dialogue where you both trust each other enough to talk to each other about why you do those things. So let's say I'm Alan and I turn around and you say to me, why the fuck are you waving at that guy who bust my face open? And I turn around and say, wow, I forgot about that. And now I'm thinking about it, waving to him is bang out of order. I feel really awkward and strange not waving to him because I've known him for so long. It's just like an automatic reaction. I'm really sorry. I've really hurt your feelings. I now get how important that is to you. I'm so sorry. I will not be doing that again. Is massive. But if you're not having that dialogue, that is how you like heal your trauma, sort of, because you're like, now he's heard you, he's seen you, he understands you. Now if he does it again in the same, you know, he could even do it again. But as long as he said, fuck, I've done it again. I'm so sorry. Like the amount of times I turn around and say to like, fuck, I've done it again, you know? But without that dialogue, this is why my first relationship ended. We weren't able to talk. We just wanted to win. I wanted to win. She wanted to win. Whereas now me and Liza are more open to talking about it and to say, you know, I felt, and really go to places that we don't want to go. Like I'm doing work with Liz Tomini White at the moment, you know, going through shame, Stell, and like, and a lot of my shame, it's all attached around sex. Now, Liz says that this is quite common, but so some of the things that I've talked to Liza about my shame around sex, I've had to be like super vulnerable to do that, because I don't want her to. I'm worried that she'll look at me funny or think I'm weird, or, you know, like, so for me, the beauty of I couldn't be in a relationship where I didn't feel I trusted my wife to be able to talk about anything. Like, for me, that is something that is really super important to me. You know, if I suddenly feel like having sex with other people, I need to know that I'm able to talk to her about that without it divorcing me. Like, I need to be able to have that comfort. So that is like super important. And
no, it's been really helpful. It's made me feel like holding back's been a good thing till I get it straight in myself and feel calm with it inside before I do this. Yeah, before I do talk about it.
It's to me, it's a shame Alan isn't here, because you seem to have your shit together, and you've done a lot of work, and you kind of are growing in your communication skills and evolving as a person. But I don't know where Alan is in all of this, right? Like, if Alan is like my dad, for example, then it doesn't matter how much you evolve and grow, you're just going to be talking to a fucking brick wall. But if this guy is willing and open and honest to grow and to learn as well, then the world is your oyster, to pinch a cliche, you know. It's that's the thing to think about. But I think we should call it time. We've been on like quite a long time now.
I like the other thing you said as well about heard and seen. It's nice to be seen and heard. It really is nice. I think after
we should demand
it. No, I know, you're right. We should
demand it. And I'm saying that from someone who's making the mistake all the time, not doing it.
Yeah.
But I would keep on doing it if Liza wasn't talking to me about it. And the red flags are arguing. It's those continual bickerings, you know. And cool. If we don't have that vulnerable, open relationship, we might never know what we're doing wrong. If we never know what we're doing wrong, we're never going to be able to fix it, you know.
No, that's true.
A lot to
and of course, when you're not drinking, it's even it's like even more poignant, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got a lot to think about, Stell. By all means, just give us give me. You got my number. Give me a call over the weekend if you want to talk.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lee, for the Zoom pod. See you later. Bye.
Bye, Stell. Bye.
See you. Bye, Lee.